Audio check, 1, 2, 3. Hello, Ryan Whalen, 1, 2, 3, 4. You bet.
Who's that guy over there again? Tim? Hey, Tim, who's that gentleman?
Huh?
Is that gentleman?
I don't know who he is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you still need audio? Is that what you're... That was a subtle hint.
Yeah, what's up?
Hello, 1, 2, 3. Mary had a little lamb.
You're recovered.
I did recover, thank you.
He's walking up here. They found you, okay? Yeah, I saw you send a thing out with saying your G.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
How are you? Everybody knows this is fine.
Everybody ready, or... You ready, Ryan? Hey, how you doing?
Mike's a little bit.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
So I had this today here in the backdrop of Old County Hall, where I had the honor of serving as county clerk. I also had the honor of serving here and running the pistol permitting division, where I believe I truly both defended the Second Amendment and also helped literally about probably 10,000 people avail themselves of their Second Amendment right by getting pistol permits. Last Friday I made remarks before the press regarding my support of some gun control measures. Since that time, every Republican elected official that endorsed me withdrew their endorsement, as did many Republican committees withdraw their support or willingness to support my candidacy for the 23rd Congressional District. Additionally, the Republican and Conservative parties in Erie County, the Republican Conservative parties of the state, both of whom endorsed me for my candidacy, have now been circulating petitions to launch primaries against me. Despite this backlash, I truly believe I could win this election, but it would be an incredibly divisive election for both the Republican Party and for the people of the 23rd District, many of whom I have not ever represented. The last thing we need is an incredibly negative, half-truth-filled media attack funded by millions of dollars of special interest money coming into our community around this issue of guns and gun violence and gun control. Therefore, today I am announcing that I will not run for the 23rd Congressional District. I will finish out my time as the 27th member of Congress to the end of the year. We have a problem in our country in terms of both our major parties. If you stray from a party position, you are annihilated. For the Republicans, it became pretty apparent to me over the last week that issue is gun control, any gun control. For Democrats, it's such things as abortion. There is only one remaining pro-life Democrat in Congress at this point in time. He is fighting for his political life right now in a Texas primary. This requirement of 100% fealty or else is not good for our democracy, and certainly is one reason not much gets done in Washington, D.C. In regards to gun control and achieving some rational, effective gun control, I believe the real hindrance right now to meaningful reform is trust. Those in rural communities like the one I currently represent are gun owners. They hunt, Fathers teach their sons how to hunt and about conservation as their fathers taught them. Gun and shooting clubs are an integral part of the rural communities I represent. Additionally, due to the isolation and lengthy police call times, many view gun owners, and rightfully so, as essential for personal protection. If all gun owners respected gun safety as the constituents in my district, I would not be talking about new gun laws. But unfortunately, that is not the case. A very small percentage of people that are extremely irresponsible, emotionally unstable, or fully insane. And with these instruments, such as the AR-15, they can become killing machines. As we saw here in Buffalo, as we saw in Uvalde, Texas, and unfortunately, tragically, as we saw again this week in Oklahoma. It is because of this reality that I have taken position, and yes, changed some of my positions on the need for gun control. When I talk again about trust, I just wanted to touch on this again because I think it is so important, and which I will try to work on while I'm in Congress and as long as I live outside of Congress. It is my belief that Second Amendment supporters, from my perspective, mostly from rural America, do not trust the other side. They view every attempt of gun control as part of a step-by-step plan to fully eviscerate the Second Amendment. And much of the rhetoric on the left, statements that are made in the past by the likes of Beto O'Rourke and others, reaffirm their fears for that intent. So I really believe if we want to make real bipartisan progress, we need to reestablish trust and try to respect the perspectives and life experiences of the other side. I commit to trying to do that in Congress and as a private citizen after. Now I just wanted to conclude by following on a couple pieces of legislation I talked about at the press conference last week that I wanted to move on. I mentioned the issue of body armor. Aaron Salter, the retired Buffalo police officer who was a security guard at the Tops Markets, who died trying to save others, he probably would have been able to take out that shooter if that shooter did not have military-grade body armor on and head armor on. My question last week was, why could any person under the sun, why should they be able to get body armor like that? That I was going to propose legislation to restrict it. It ended up that there was already legislation that Grace Mang, a Democrat from downstate, had offered last session. I've been now working with her to reintroduce it along with my colleague Brian Higgins, and we are hoping, with the consent of the family, to name that legislation after Aaron Salter. If that individual, the killer at the Tops Market, did not have body armor, Aaron Salter would have taken him out. Aaron Salter would not have died, and all the other people in the Tops Markets likely would have been saved. We need to do this, and we're going to get this passed. I also mentioned two other items. Capacity limits. I do not believe that individuals need magazines of 50 or 60 rounds or more. The capacity limits should be limited at a minimum if we cannot achieve an assault weapon ban. There's legislation next week to limit the magazine capacity to 10. I will be supportive of that legislation. It's going to the floor next week. Came out of the Judiciary Committee yesterday. And in regards to age restrictions on assault weapons, you have to be 21 years old to drink beer, smoke cigarettes, and but yet you could be 18 to buy an assault weapon. I believe it's perfectly reasonable to say 21. Many of these killers that use these AR-15s and assault weapons tend to be 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, and they often don't have a record because they just became of majority age at 18. I think extending this to 21 will both give time for people to find out that they are a problem, or also the records to find them and find out that they should not have such a piece of such an instrument that is so lethal. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
While you said you're seeing a lot of backlash towards it, you're seeing also receiving a lot of praise for the safety. So what did your withdrawal say to those people who praised you?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm still in Congress. I'm going to continue. As I said, I'm going to be voting on bills next week. I will continue to speak up on this issue while I'm there. But I felt that I want to commit to this as part of one of the things I want to do outside of Congress, to try to build bridges, try to get people to understand the perspectives of one another on this issue, that again, their personal positions and also their personal life experiences in a way that we can come and not run to our camps. And we see this every time there's a tragedy, that the rhetoric goes both ways and people go retreat into their camps. And it happens over and over and over again. I want to be part of trying to change that cycle.
Were you surprised by all the backlash from Republicans? I mean, what you said wasn't outrageous.
I was surprised to the extent, but I knew that there was going to be a high level of backlash. But look, if you're not going to take a stand on something like this, I don't know what you're going to take a stand on. So I don't want any community, if I can play any role in avoiding any community from having to deal with what Buffalo is dealing with right now, or with those family members of the 19 children and others who died in Uvalde, Texas. They went to work, their children went to school, and they never saw their children again.
You're that convicted about the issue. Why not stand up? Why not, just forge on and try to win this race?
I just think that the way this would roll out, it would not be productive because of the way, these campaigns, we would be talking about, I would be the target on the outside money. I'm the only member of Congress that has done this. So the money will flow, and the misinformation, the half-truths, the firing up will happen. And I think it will be a very not unproductive. We will end this race in a worse position of dialogue in this community than we would be if I decided to do it along another vein.
What do you say to the?
Cautionary tale though for other Republicans who look at what's happened to you last week and say,
I would,
"I may believe this
yeah, I would say this. I have a particular challenge in the fact that the redistricting. I'm first-term member of Congress. I'm from Erie County. I represent 7 other counties that I never represented before 2 years ago. I've done a lot of work and got to know a lot of people in those counties. Redistricting happening, I have Erie County and now 6 other counties, none of whom I've represented before. For me to start off a relationship with those voters here is particularly a challenge for me. I hope that some more senior members who have a little more longevity with their voters can start taking some steps out and do this. And I think you will see that, but it's not happening, and it's not happening as well. I said this last week. I said I would vote for an assault weapon ban bill if it came to the floor, but I don't believe it's going to come to the floor because the Democrats don't want it to come to the floor, because some of their vulnerable members don't want to have to vote on it. And unfortunately, some people just like to beat Republicans over the head with it and not get it achieved. I hope I'm wrong. I hope maybe what's happened the last couple of weeks changed that. But some of the rhetoric I've heard on the left, reaffirms that. So.
How do you explain to the victims and their families of the Buffalo mass shooting that may feel like you're essentially giving up on them by backing up police?
I'm not, and I can only say this: just wait and see. Wait and see what I do, because I got some plans.
Chris, how has this affected your family? I've seen some of the comments on Twitter. Have you been getting any emails or anything that have made you feel unsafe?
No, I want to say that a reporter asked me that question, and somebody was very nice to give out online my cell phone. So I've been getting a lot of text and calls, and upset people, and I understand that. But I want to say that not one of them has made any sort of threat at all. They have every right. I'm an elected official. They have every right to say what they said. And part of me said it last week, so they had that opportunity. Because you know what I could have done? I could have kept quiet for the next 3 months and gotten through this primary and then said, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you I have differing views with you on this issue. I wanted to be honest and respectful because I do respect them. And as I talked about here in my remarks, I respect very much the perspective on the Second Amendment.
Your critics say that you turned your back on the Constitution, not necessarily them, the Constitution. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I just don't agree with that, and I think that there's many constitutional rights. The Bill of Rights, and not everything is completely absolute. You can't yell fire in a movie theater, and I would think these families who lost their loved ones feel some of their constitutional rights were trampled on. So everything's a balance, and I am a defender, that's why I'm here today, of the Second Amendment. I will continue to be a defender, but that does not mean I cannot say what is happening here is ridiculous. Look, years ago we banned machine guns, and that line of thinking is it unconstitutional that everybody can't get a machine gun? So we have to be reasonable.
Congressman, you said, just as a follow-up, if I may, you said, you basically said, wait and see what we do. People want change now. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm going, as I mentioned, last week I said I was going to pull together a bill on body armor. That's coming up. I'm voting on legislation. So I'm here. I think there's going to be a lot of activity in the next couple months. So I will be very active and vocal on that. But I do think that some of this stuff will take some time, unfortunately, because of how dug in people are. And I would just encourage both sides to tone down the rhetoric. Just let's just pick this issue as an issue we can tone down the rhetoric on and have sober, fact-based conversations on this. I just beg people to do that, and I'm going to do my best I can.
As an outgoing congressman, you likely won't have a lot of power with some of these pieces of legislation you hope to propose. How do you hope to swing that with this announcement?
I think that a Republican member entertaining, co-sponsoring some legislation actually has some sway.
Is this impacting at all your ability to conference with House Republicans, committee assignments, anything like that?
Well, the good thing is I'm a freshman member, so my committee assignments really aren't that big anyway. So no, there's been none of that at this point in time. I really, I think that I'm sure, I have discussions, but from my experience, our colleagues are pretty respectful of these sort of things. But I haven't been down there. I'll see next week when I go.
For New Yorkers that will have two new congressmen, come this next election with Congressman Reed and yourself departing, what would you say to your constituents who would be looking for a leader in this case?
Yeah, I mean, again, I will continue to represent this district. The 27th district was changing anyway, so Claudia Tenney, who is the odds-on favorite, will, whether I was running or not, will have that district, and Erie County will be represented by someone else, but most likely a Republican as well. And certainly whoever gets elected, I will work with and make sure there's smooth transition, and as I have in any other position I've been in where I've left.
Are you supporting anybody for that seat for the Republicans?
This thing has been such a whirlwind. I'm not aware of where things are going. But if there is an individual that I'm comfortable with and is the party support, I would support. One major reason I'm doing this is I don't want to divide this party. I want to work with it. I will work with them. I'm going to continue to be an advocate to urge them to also look at this with a little more open mind. I don't think it's good for the party long term to have such an absolute position on this, because I think there are a lot of people who would be receptive to our party more if they felt that this party was a little more thoughtful on this issue.
What communication have you had with Nick Langford?
I've had a couple conversations with him. I obviously did blindside him when I made the statement last week. So we've talked briefly. I talked to him yesterday about my decision.
When you went public with these things last week, why did it take what happened in Texas for you to speak out? I think some people are wondering why you didn't speak out after what happened in our own community.
Well, I think I made those remarks last week. I said that I don't represent the city of Buffalo at this time. I don't have the honor of that. I did not feel comfortable going and standing up with the litany of other electeds because I'm not governing. I'm not the governing entity there. It was time for those governing to make the decisions and need what to do. I conveyed to the mayor that day, Mayor Brown, I'm with you. I'm so sorry for this, and anything I can do. But I think that, as I said, I hope I've been compassionate over the years when I've seen other tragedies, but there's something just profound when this is in your own community, and it really triggered me to spend a lot more time talking to people, advocates for gun rights, and their perspective on why they were not receptive to any changes. And frankly, I respect them, but their arguments rang hollow to me. That I think we can do some reasonable things that could have significant impact without infringing on Second Amendment rights.
Chris, what I'm told, a lot of people, even people pretty close to you, didn't feel you were make those statements out front. Why did you play it so close to the press?
It just it was very much, I was very disappointed, I will say, in Chuck Schumer. Again, here's a Republican coming out and saying, I'm receptive to some gun control measures, and he said Jacobs is feeling the heat. Yeah, well, why would you, instead of saying, thank you, let's work together. I didn't feel any heat on this issue. No one called me about the assault weapon ban. This was purely a personal contemplation, prayer, and talking to people that I felt that this was the right thing to do, and the time was now to do it. Thank you very much, everybody. Hey.